they just say, oh, you're the one that kind of cares about the environment, or you work in that field. Like that's kind of your thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just great seeing how curious the kids are here and how open they are to things.
The future of Mongolia is bright, but there is still a lot of work to do.
I've done tours and have stayed with nomad families, and everyone's just been very hospitable and welcoming.
Hi, we are at the Junior Ranger Camp by the Mongol Ecology Center, and I'm here with Maddie from Australia, who is working at our camp as a counselor. Hi, Maddie.
Hey, Hankara, how are you?
Good, how are you? Are
Good.
you enjoying the camp so far?
Yeah, it's been great. It's exceeded my expectations.
Great. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions today. You're from Australia, so why did you decide to come all the way to Mongolia this summer?
I just had this urge to come to Mongolia like a couple of years ago when I was traveling, and I kept hearing all these stories from different people, and then I kind of looked more into it and the nomad lifestyle that's here, and was really interested in how the sustainability of that intersects with culture and community, and so I guess I wanted to experience that for myself, and that's what I want to study, so yeah.
Great. And why did you decide to teach at the Junior Ranger Camp?
I really wanted to do something where I thought I could actually make a difference, and I think I really aligned with the Mongol Ecology Center's values, especially when it comes to, like, we talked a lot in that interview about traditional ecological knowledge, which is something I'm really passionate about, and I thought it was amazing that you guys incorporate that here. And I'm really interested in science education and environmental education. And so I wanted to kind of see what that would look like in a context outside of Australia and see how I could make a difference there. And yeah, I'm just really passionate about connecting people with nature. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to do that.
So after you arrived to Mongolia, can you tell me about some of like the first impressions you've had, or like the first few interactions you've had with Mongolians?
Yeah, I've had amazing interactions with Mongolians. Especially I had a long travel day to get here through China, and then I arrived at the Ulaanbaatar airport, and everyone was so friendly. Even the person who checked my passport just had this big grin on her face and said, "Welcome to Mongolia," and I felt really at ease and straight away, which was amazing. And then since then, I've done tours and have stayed with nomad families, and everyone's just been very hospitable and welcoming. And I love that you can just kind of sit with someone, maybe share some vodka, some arag, and feel like you're getting to know them. Even if you don't speak the same language, you just kind of sit in silence and feel accepted. And yeah, so it's been great.
Nice. I'm glad that you had positive experiences so far. So could you tell us a bit more about where you grew up? I'm sure it was quite different from Mongolia.
Yeah, I grew up in Tasmania, Australia. So it's that big island at the bottom of Australia. So probably the opposite side of the world to Mongolia. And it was really great. It's a small island. There's only 500,000 people. And I grew up really close to nature and kind of away from all the hustle and bustle of a big city. And I feel really grateful for my upbringing, living at the bottom of the mountain in the city I grew up, and then kind of going on hikes a lot with my parents, going on bushwalks. And then I moved to the city about 5.5 years ago, so into Melbourne.
So you said you grew up close to nature, and now you're working in like the field of environment. Could you tell us about what you studied in school and also what your professional background is?
Yeah, so I was always really interested in science in school. And then so I decided to go into a Bachelor of Science, and I ended up majoring in genetics and ecology. And then I've always worked in hospitality and restaurants. And I did that for a while, went traveling for a bit, and then came back and started working as a tour guide, which is really great, getting people outside, helping them experience Australia and getting to pass on what I know about my country. And yeah, it's a really great job for me. And then I'm now studying my master's in ecosystem management. So when I was doing my science degree, I kind of took some classes and realized I didn't want to just do hard science. I wanted to see how people could fit into the environment. So this master's I'm doing now is really perfect for that and really interesting. Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad that it's always nice to hear people connecting, a more scientific background, especially in the environment, to like economics or social sciences, and making those kind of interdisciplinary connections. I think it's always super interesting. So how did you find your passion for the environment? Like, you grew up close to nature and now you're studying for the second time related to the environment.
Yeah, I guess growing up in nature really helps. I think I feel a really strong connection to Tasmania and the environment there. And so that kind of I have a level of like protection for that as well. And so learning about climate change in school is when I realized that it might not stay around forever unless we kind of fight for it and protect it. So I guess that's what's forged my path. And then I've met like-minded people, and traveling has been great, like seeing different environments. And it's really helped me appreciate other places, but also appreciate my own home as well. Yeah, I feel really lucky to be from somewhere that's so beautiful and has so many natural spaces.
Mm-hmm. Do you plan to, move back to Tasmania, work there, stay in Australia, or what kind of impact do you hope to make?
Oh, that's a good question. I plan probably long term to stay in Australia. I do think we have a good quality of life. My family are there, but I would love to go away for a couple of years and work maybe overseas. I'm really interested in kind of working with Indigenous communities in Australia to support like land back movements, and encourage, traditional land stewardship and ownership. So I would love to work. There's a few jobs like that in the middle of Australia in the Northern Territory. So I'd love to, make a difference there, and encourage kind of, giving land back and help facilitate that process, I guess.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I think the traditional knowledge and Indigenous culture and communities in Australia are very interesting, and there's a lot to learn there. Same in Mongolia. We have a lot of like nomadic culture, and traditional knowledge, but I think it's starting to be connected to the environment more and more.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people still don't realize that they have something to contribute to protecting the environment and conservation. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What would you say is the most pressing environmental issue in Australia right now? Like in Mongolia, it's for sure land degradation, desertification, but I'm sure that it's probably different in Australia.
Yeah. Our biggest problem will probably be bushfires or wildfires, as other countries call it, kind of extreme weather events and floods as well. So bushfires are expected to increase in frequency and intensity with climate change. And with our environment, we do need fire. It's a massive ecosystem tool, and it's been used by like Indigenous people for tens of thousands of years to intentionally look after the landscape. But now that we're seeing this massive increase because we've lost those like land stewardship practices, it's just starting to affect the ecosystem. So once it experiences that frequency of fire, it will just degrade and we'll lose it forever. It also impacts people's homes and livelihoods, and health quality as well, with smoke quality. And so, yeah, that's probably our biggest issue, especially in the southeast of Australia. And then you get on the other side floods, which often happen in tandem. So it's a real hard on communities, and difficult to fight them. Yeah.
Would you say that affects rural communities more? And does that affect like the number of people moving from rural areas to more urban areas?
Yeah, definitely. Rural and regional areas definitely the most affected. It's been interesting seeing how urban areas have been more affected by the smoke of it all, and I think that's woken a lot of people up to bushfire risk. But it has meant that insurance is really high in those areas, so people can't afford to insure their houses, and there is a high risk of losing your home. So I think a lot of people, there's less opportunities out there in general, less young people, and so that and the bushfires is less of a, I guess, reason for people to move out there. So a lot of people do end up moving into urban cities.
Yeah, in a way it sounds similar to Mongolia, because there's a lot of young people who are from the provinces and they move to our capital city for university or for more job opportunities, and they often don't move back. So yeah, in that way it's similar. How well would you say that people in Australia generally are engaged in environmental issues?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It really depends on where you are. So, where I grew up kind of spearheaded the conservation movement in Australia. Um, but then you have kind of northern Australia where there's a lot of mining. So, people's livelihoods are dependent on mines. And so, they're a lot less concerned about climate change. But it's hard to judge them if, your whole livelihood is around these mines. And so, you get a lot of variation. I'd say generally we love camping, we love being outside, so people do usually grow up with that, even if they're more conservative. So I would say people are pretty concerned about the environment, but as you get into areas where there's more economic issues, people just have other concerns, or they just point blank don't care, which is a shame.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like in communities where mining is the main, livelihood source for local families, like in Mongolia, there's a lot of towns like that. There's no alternative to mining. So especially when you're trying to teach like younger people or children about caring for the environment, it's kind of difficult to get through because they've grown up hearing about mining and the benefits and how their families able to survive off of it. So it's always a difficult conversation and hard to really only approach it from like an environmental aspect. And how engaged would you say that young people in Australia are?
I'd say they're pretty engaged. I think they did a survey recently where they looked at, how many, what young people thought was the biggest issue they were currently facing. And I'd say, I think the majority said climate change, maybe about 70%. So it's good to see people really caring. But I do think post-COVID, we've seen maybe a drop in the urgency because there's so many other things going on. And I know everything is, social justice is connected to environmental justice, but it's hard to really connect all of that. And I think people are really trying to focus on just surviving and, protesting genocide, which is very fair. And a lot of we've got right-wing extremism on the rise. And so that is genuinely really scary. So I think, and there's a kind of sense of hopelessness when it comes to the environment. I'd say, a lot of corporations do control a lot of the emissions, same with billionaires and celebrities. And so people do feel a bit hopeless about it. And I don't really blame them, but it's just about education and knowing that we can do something, I guess. Yeah.
And here at the camp, we're teaching middle schoolers in Mongolia about environmental education, how to care for the environment, and learning about wildlife. And we have teachers from the Czech Republic, from the United States, and you from Australia, and as well as from across Mongolia. So regardless of where you're from, do you have like a piece of advice to give to people on how to take the first step to get involved in environmental issues?
Definitely just start locally. I think that's has some bigger impact than you think. So it could even just be talking to your friends and family about the environment and going outside together and going camping or just going on a hike. And you'll be surprised at how connected you guys feel, not just to each other, but to the environment as well. And that can have a really big impact. And then from there, you can maybe either join a local group or start a local group. I love volunteering with my local riverkeeper restoration project. I just go once a week and we weed and we plant and we yap, and it's really sweet. And you can see an actual impact happening. And it's once you start doing actions, you just kind of keep the momentum going. And so you can kind of encourage that in your local community, and you can do a lot with that.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes some people, feel hopeless or feel like it's just such a big problem that they can't make any impact. Or sometimes like some of my friends or people I know, they just say, oh, you're the one that kind of cares about the environment, or you work in that field. Like that's kind of your thing. It's not like a everybody thing. It's just kind of your thing. So I think that's kind of like a misconception as well. Everybody should be involved, and it's very easy to be involved in small ways.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess one last question is, your career and like professional background and educational background has been related to the environment. And you said that you grew up close to nature and you've been kind of connected to nature since you were young, but there's a lot of young people who did not have the chance to grow up like that. and who are also at the verge of choosing or needing to choose like their future profession or major in university. So what advice would you give them to kind of choose the direction or path that they want to go forward with in the future?
Yeah, I just say start anywhere. You just have to start. So if you have a vague interest in something, just follow that and it'll probably change. But you'll never know what kind of opportunities will come up along the way. So I started doing like physics and maths, which is so different to what I ended up doing. But then I just did some biology classes and I loved it. And then I kind of kept following that and did genetics and then ecology. And then doing my ecology classes, people started talking about the human side of things and how research is quite, this Western idea of research is quite, what's the word? Like, it just doesn't encompass everything. It can be very limiting. And so that truly just like opened my mind. And then I wanted to focus more on the human side. And then I kind of ended up in the degree I'm doing. And I've always just applied for something that has a vague inkling of interest, anything that sparks that. And then you just kind of see where it goes. And you can always change it. And it's great to be like interdisciplinary, like you build a lot of different skills. But I think just starting is so important. You can't just sit there and think about all these possible opportunities and just not do anything. You really need to just do something, even if it's small.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And it sounds super simple, but I think that's really just what people need to do, especially like if you're in high school or maybe in university and kind of questioning what you want to do in the future, and you kind of figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
And I think we're both probably still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like we're just choosing things that we like while we still figure out things that we dislike. So it's a long process.
Yeah.
And we're still on that journey. Is there anything else that you want to share with us, or you feel like you just want to share with the world about anything about your experience here, about the environment? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's just great seeing how curious the kids are here and how open they are to things. And I think they're not really like that in Australia. And it's made me realize how important it is to keep that curiosity even as you get older, and how special it is. And just to be open to things, I think, is a really beautiful thing. So I feel like I've learned a lot from the kids about that. And it's really refreshing to see that and really exciting for future generations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Our students are great. I think the future of Mongolia is bright, but there is still a lot of work to do. And thank you for coming all the way from Australia to Mongolia to be with us for 2 weeks and to work with our kids to help them build their relationship and connection to nature. So thank you, Maddie.
That's okay. I feel lucky to be here. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed our discussion with Maddie. We are filming this in Agir at our junior ranger camp in Ikh Nart Nature Reserve, which is in Darn Gobi province in the northern Gobi region of Mongolia. So stay tuned for our next podcast from a different region of Mongolia.